on May 22nd, BBS will be at the board meeting to present an in-depth presentation of their work to date. And I will just say BBS has been very busy indeed. BBS has shown a coordinated effort in their investigation of the overall integrity, sustainability, adequacy, life expectancy, and overall quality of the educational experience in all of the district's buildings. They've completed all site visits of the buildings, including interviews with custodial staff, building principals, and district administration. They have also analyzed and combined the reports provided by the previous architects and engineers and other independent consultants, and have had conversations with the State Education Department regarding clarification of code requirements. Their presentation on the 22nd will cover building site, envelope, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and technology components, as well as their observations and recommendations. In addition, the presentation on May 22nd will include an update of their district-wide analysis of space utilization, which has really been interesting watching them go through this process. The basis of their analysis is the following. They approach spatial utilization in the context of providing exceptional and appropriate educational environments for all students, starting with individual classrooms and culminating in overall building configurations. 2, they take a balanced look at existing, proposed, and potential spatial assets and their utilization within each building. They compare K-5 buildings with one another, evaluate within the context of the entire K-12 school district, and then they suggest ways in which the buildings can best support educational program delivery for a consistent and complete K-12 student experience. 3, they compare existing to potential. They explore and test potential configurations and utilization patterns of existing and proposed and potential spaces as expressed through floor plan diagram development. They'll present design options at all district buildings based upon identified parameters. 4, they explore, present these potential architectural design solutions within the context of several observed themes. A, innovative possibilities for students. B, individual classroom environments. This is sort of what we've called the model classroom previously. C, spatial utilization conflicts. Where is the building sort of competing against itself for space? The overall spatial program, location and configuration of spaces at each building. Food service and dining facilities. And F, finally, programs for storage and materials. New construction and any interior renovation solutions are suggested only after fully investigating the potential of existing space. This is in combination with all of the look at engineering and architectural and structure. Based on all of their work completed to date, district administration in concert with BBS has drafted a timeline leading to a mid-December 2017 public bond referendum. And I'll just go through some of the highlights before we lay out the more detailed calendar at the next board meeting. Of course, we kick this off May 22nd. BBS will share their efforts to date, a broad discussion of the facility study, and discussion of all the spatial needs, evaluation, design responses, and all of the architectural and engineering needs. May and June, we're reconvening with all of the building committees. These are the committees that were at the buildings about a year, 14 months or so ago. So to go back, share the work that they've done, get the feedback from that group, talk about the work that committee prioritized, and to move ahead after that, sort of sharing and getting a common set of priorities. June 12th, BBS will be back here at the board with a further refinement and development of work. We intend to do a public forum on June 19th in the morning, to share the same presentation and give people a chance to get out and ask questions and hear the information from BBS firsthand. July 6th is not only the board's reorg meeting, but it'll be another opportunity BBS to spend with the Board of Education and further refine and narrow the scope. At that time, I will be forming and putting together a district-wide community group, not only made up of district-wide or district residents, but also some building representation as well, in order to go through the priorities as defined to date, and before they get handed off back to the Board of Education when you come back for a August 24th board meeting as this is a very fast track, it's not that much time between now and December, but we have already done a lot of work. So the board will come back in September, look at that refined scope of work, again, continue to work, get out to the community, public meetings, and in October, in order to meet a December budget referendum vote, October 16th would be where the board would need to adopt the proposed project. So there's a lot of work that needs to get done between now and then. BBS has done a great deal, building on the work that we have done already. If you recall, we've done the roofing study, we've done an athletic field study, we have had our building committees. Now they have done a lot of their work. They've been in the buildings, they've met with a lot of people, and I know Dr. Hagerman can attest to the reams of paper and diagrams and everything that we've seen to date. At this time, we are going through the work, the line-by-line list items that they've done. So not only from an architectural perspective, meeting integrity of buildings, and we're not talking about Green Acres alone, we're talking about all the buildings in the district, but certainly Green Acres as well. And then also building engineering type things, so the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, air exchange in buildings. We heard a little bit about that last year about ventilation in Green Acres. Well, it's actually all across the district as that came up in our building committee meetings last spring. So we're going through all of those lists, calling out items between the building conditions study that was done by KG&D, where there are repeats, or making sure there's only one item listed, where things that are still pertinent and important, keeping those on the list, and then adding the items that BBS has come up as well. So we'll have one comprehensive list to move forward with. So again, it's a aggressive timeline. We really kick that off on May 22nd when BBS will be here. Right now we have them slotted for 2.5 hours to go through each building. Well, first the district as a whole, and then move into each building, and then potentials for each of those buildings and how to meet some of those needs. Questions? Yes.
So are they still going to be in the priority 1, 2, 4 category?
Yes, and they'll define that from their perspective, what that means. It's different than our past architect. And so they'll be sharing that when we go through that. Now, it's not going to be a line-by-line item, otherwise it will probably be 6 or 7 hours, but it will be general themes, both from sort of the engineering structural side of things, and then also from the space utilization aspect as well.
So how about the educational visioning piece? Like we had talked about that several months ago, where we got into with KG&D, but in terms of vision, a new architect needs to know what, quite frankly, your vision is educationally. And I've heard you talk about the space, and I've heard you talk about the engineering. Has that piece already been conveyed to the architect?
They've spent hours and hours and hours with most of us up here in the buildings, with the teachers, with the principals. So they've spent a terrific amount of time capturing both the district-wide sort of vision all the way down to individual teachers in classrooms.
So I would suggest that in tomorrow's highlights, that gets added to what you just said, because I think that's very important. I mean, that sitting here in our role, I think the other things are very important too. But to me, making sure that our buildings are right for our kids, for this generation and the next generation, educationally, is just as important as if the boilers are working. So I want, that part I think should be highlighted. I'm glad to hear that they've already done it. I'm excited to hear about that in 2 weeks. But I'm not as excited to hear about the boilers again.
Yeah, I don't want to mischaracterize. I mean, they're going to be coming at this as sort of a holistic approach to the building,
Okay.
and I think it will just be imbued with philosophy and vision. They're not going to discreetly pull out roofs and boilers and discrete little projects like that. So they'll talk about a model elementary classroom particularly, and that's going to be a sort of a philosophical take, again, a culmination of all of the things that they've heard kind of across the district. They're going to present things in terms of conflicts, which again is sort of where education vision is not aligning with physical space issues. So I think it's going to be much more robust. The other thing that we are deliberately not talking about, and please don't ask, is how much anything costs. That is not for the first meeting. We want to put everything out there in terms of the big ideas, the needs, have people really have an opportunity to reflect on that. And then our next meeting, we'll start talking about costs. But we really want people to understand what the issues are and think about them sort of independently of other kind of artificial constraints at this moment.
This should be an exciting meeting.
Absolutely.
This is Scarsdale schools and our 7 buildings for the next generations.
And I invited all of our PTA presidents to have parents come and join us. I've been asking teachers to come. We've talked with, trying to get a large group of representation across the district, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. Pam?
So I don't want to take anything away from this May 22nd meeting, because I know it's going to be a great kickoff and incredibly valuable, but knowing the 6 months is so tight, can I just get a little bit more clarity exactly of like June 12? Are there dollars, when do dollars start getting attached? And when does the board need to, when are we doing our discussion and deliberation on choices and selections?
It'll be all through each and every board meeting that we've talked about. So the June 12th board meeting, there'll be a further refinement. So based off of the feedback that we get from the building committees, based on the work of BBS, that they're continued, it's sort of a work in progress as they formulate, I would say, an exact plan or a potential for the building. And then July 6th is the reorg meeting. We're allotting a good chunk of time to spend with BBS for the Board of Education to, again, further refine that scope. At that point, the district will have been working on internally. We plan on doing some surveys out to the community as well to get community feedback on some of the big ideas, if you will. And so that will help inform the Board of Education as well. Through the July 6th through the August, third week of August board meeting, the community group will get together with representation. It's a tough time of year, but the timeline's the timeline to help formulate some ideas and some guidance for the Board of Education as well. And then when we come back in September, hopefully we have to, if we want to meet that December timeline, really narrow down the priorities. And we intend to do the priorities internally as well.
Not just the priorities, that will be a bond, we're doing a full-blown bond package in
Right.
September.
Deciding it. I mean, that's
Yeah,
when,
that's
that's
correct, yeah.
the package decision.
Yeah,
September.
so it's,
That will happen in December.
right, so we will not be coming back to you to say, do you agree on putting this $3,000 item into the project? It will be a package deal, a package order of priorities coming up to make a referendum that makes sense for us.
Can I ask if you envision us being put, the question being put to us from the architects, new versus reconstruction? Or are you thinking that through their process, they are going to have a recommendation?
They will have a recommendation on the 22nd.
So, on the 22nd. So we are not really in a big way
On May
having to
22nd?
face that
Yes.
discussion as much.
They're going to do their recommendation on Green Acres, on the high school, on the middle school. I mean, they're going to give recommendations on everything.
But
So-
not like an option situation, but based
They're
on
gonna
their building plan as an assessment, they are identifying the path they recommend.
They believe that we hired them to come to you with their
Identify
best
the plan.
thinking, and they're coming to us with their best thinking, and they're going to be making recommendations.
Based on their work and their research.
And May 22nd, are they also going to be providing, I assume, visual presentations at the same time
Correct.
for each of their
Yes,
their recommendations?
It's a lot. It's
No,
going
I
to be a
know
lot.
it's
a lot.
Just be ready.
it's a lot. They've done a lot of work. They've done a lot of work.
So logistically, we're going to start with that?
That's going to be the whole thing. It's going to be 3
I'm
hours.
looking at that microphone, and I'm wondering, we want, people are going to want to react to it.
Well, we can't react to it until we
But
see it.
they've got to, but usually public hearings, we have that hearing right in the beginning. But I think this should be before the business meeting, perhaps, considered a presentation, and then we start the business meeting and then the hearing.
It's not a business meeting.
What? It's not a
We have
business.
no business
Consent agenda
meeting.
that day? No
Yeah.
consent agenda?
There might be some business items, but it's not a business meeting on the 22nd.
Okay.
It's,
So everybody can hear them first.
Well, I mean, there are two different comment periods in any event,
Right.
so that if people could comment in addition after they hear what people have.
Well, I would want people to comment after they hear. It's just a question of, if they're going to speak for 2.5 hours, I'd like the start time to be.
All right, it behooves, I mean, some people may come in and think they already understand the things, but I think it's probably worth everyone's time to sit through and actually listen to the presentation in their
yeah.
words, and then to have a really informed conversation based on the stuff that's been said.
Right, and then they can comment on June 12th as well. I mean, we're all going to react.
And
Comment forevermore
Right.
after that.
No, but us too, right? I mean, we're going to have to digest all this and ask questions and think about this, so
Absolutely.
just as the
12th
public's going to have to
seems like
too.
a big
In the surveys, we intend on, putting surveys out to get feedback after each and every presentation.
So can you just talk to the survey part? Like, what are you talking about formally?
So
survey?
we're engaging or attempting to engage right now with a PR firm who sort of specializes on this. And our thought is after each presentation to send out surveys to the targeted group, so by each school. So high school parents, what do you think about the high school stuff? Green Acres, what do you think about the Green Acres stuff? Really get specific feedback about the projects, and that will help to inform, again, the packages that we sort of talked about building as the next step in this work. Short, sweet, to the point. These aren't like, 3-page surveys, but very quick responses so that we can really gauge the entire community's reactions to the things that are being presented. And so that people don't feel that, again, that just the microphone is the only forum with which to be able to provide feedback.
And why would you do just Green Acres for just Green Acres, just Edgewood for
Well,
just Edgewood?
that was the first blush. And then there would be it would be an iterative process of doing more and more refining based on what we learn.
Are you saying that at a certain point you would ask the entire district what they would think about?
Correct.
The work proposed at Green Acres, at Edgewood, at the high school? so that-
Yeah, I mean, as we kind of put them together in packages where they're kind of bound together in a way, then that would get broader and broader as a group.
And this only goes to people that we have email addresses for? So it's current?
It could be anyone on our mailing list.
All mailing lists.
Right, so we should encourage, because I think we would want feedback from non-parents or, kids with, so we have to figure out a feedback loop for that as well. Of
course, and that's why
If we
we're-
have their emails, great, but if we don't, we need to figure that out as well.
This is a group that we're talking with, we haven't finalized, so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but this is what they do. I mean, this is their work. And specifically getting ready for bond, things, and so. Nina?
Yeah, just one quick comment on the schedule. I know it's ambitious, and I thank you so much for putting all this together. I noticed that on June 19th, you're going to have a public session, and it's going to be a morning session. Was there any consideration to holding an evening session, just because a lot of our community members do work, and they may want the opportunity to come out and be a part of the discussion?
So June 12th, June 19th will be the same presentation that will be at the June 12th.
Just like we did before, one in the morning, one in the evening.
Right.
So
Oh, I
we-
So
see.
they-
So it's the same thing, because you
Just
called it
another
a public
opportunity.
meeting, so I didn't know if there was
Public
going...
forums, public.
But I mean, is a public forum meaning that the public can come up and, is there any sort of interaction, or is it just they come up and make comments and we
They
listen?
BBS will be doing a presentation, similar to the
Right.
presentation that they did on June 12th, and then people can give feedback at the same, as they could at a board meeting.
Okay, so a lot to look forward to on that front. Exciting news.
Is that
Yep.
retreat public? Is that a public meeting, July 6th?
No, but there'll be a public meeting.
The
in
same day of that
day.
retreat?
Correct.
There will be a public meeting component?
July 6th is the reorg meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So we have our private retreat
Retreat.
component, but that same day there'll be a public component where the
There's all-
BBS is speaking
We
publicly.
do our reorg meeting, we do business.
Okay.
We'll have a little more business than usual, and then we'll do the retreat.
Sounds good.
Good?
Will this timeline be in the highlights tomorrow, like in the summary for today? Like,
So well.
because we certainly heard public comment that people are looking for a timeline.
Yep.
I know it doesn't get to the December vote and what happens after that, because we haven't even talked in terms of when the construction would be, which I assume is certainly part of the timeline people want. I know that's a little bit ahead of ourselves, but at least we've gone through December.
One step at a time.
December with hopefully then a positive vote.
All right, moving on to 6.4 then, proposal